But what I would like you to do is to have a look now at the assessments at the back of the handouts that you've got, because I'd like to spend some time seeing if we can do one or two of those assessments, or at least part of them, today. So let's have a look at the assessment number C2.7. This is the online knowledge test. This is the first one for the physical environment. This one is simply you logging in, doing the online knowledge test and answering true or false. Now, once, as James found last night, it's not active yet. So in the next week or so that will be active, and you'll be able to do that and complete that fairly quickly. Okay, so if you turn over the page, you'll come across the next assessment, which should be 2.8. This is a workplace project, so this is a little more extensive. You are required to use your knowledge of at least 2 of your residents to complete assessment tool 2.8, should be, table of neurological impairments, functional problems and design adaptations for each person, identifying firstly the neurological problems they have, and then the daily experiences or consequences of these problems. Complete the table for each resident, following the example answer given in the first row of the table. Okay, so if you just turn over the page, you'll find the tool you're looking for is that one. It's over, turn 2 pages over, and you will find the neurological problem, the daily experience, and then what are the dementia design principles that are relevant, and then what adaptations would you make. Is that okay? So it's pretty straightforward. You do that for 2 residents. Now, it's not just would you make, but you need to actually make some changes, make some adaptations. And it might simply be, something like putting up some more signage relating to or personalising that particular environment for that person. The bullet points there under number 1 are important. There should be a logical relationship between the information provided showing an understanding of the nature of brain problems, the behavioural consequences in daily life, and the adaptations you have made. Where possible, students should provide evidence of the adaptation they've made. And this may be a photograph embedded in a Word document or simply a JPEG. Do you know what I mean by a JPEG? A photo. Just a picture. Yeah. A picture in electronic format. So it usually has .jpg. So they are adaptations that you do actually make. So think about what adaptations you might make there. There are some examples given in that table. Let's have a look at the first one. If the person has memory problems, short and long term, the daily experience might be they can't find their way, become lost, they can't remember how to dress themselves or eat or go to the toilet. The dementia design principles that are relevant are the place needs to be familiar, small, simple, and have good visual access, reduce unwanted stimulation, highlight important stimuli, etc. Be familiar is repeated there. The adaptation you make would be to introduce location cues, distinct objects placed at strategic locations. Now that's a simple thing to do. Does that make sense? And so what we would need is for you to provide evidence of that.
So to do this one, we have to pick up 2 residents here?
You have to choose 2 of your residents. Yeah.
So it can't be done from the home?
No, this is one that you will need to complete once you get back to work. Yeah. I'm just going through this at the moment so that you can be clear about what's involved for you. Okay. The second part of this is when you have completed the table for each person, complete the assessment tool, the risk assessment matrix for the 2 residents or clients, identifying the physical, emotional and social risks of living in their environment and what the risks are following your adaptations that you made in number 1. So for that, turn over the page and you have this coloured table. Does that make sense? So, if you use it this way, long ways, you've got the table up the top there of what's called a risk matrix. If you look across the top, you've got the consequences. What could happen? They might be insignificant consequences, minor, moderate, major or catastrophic. Down the side, you've got the likelihood of these consequences occurring. Almost certain, likely, possible, unlikely or rare. Is that okay? Okay, so we're going to give these events a rating. So let's go down and you, on the page below, where it says the Dementia Environment Wellbeing Risk Assessment Matrix, you've got your date of your assessment, when did you do this, who is it, that's you, the assessor, and the location of the environment, write down the name of your facility and the number of people living there. Then you'll notice you've got physical risks, social risks, emotional risks, and then you've got the action that is planned for the proposed improvement, what are you going to actually do, and then you've got physical, social and emotional risks, and then who is responsible, when, and when it was signed off, or signed off by who. So if we follow the example across, the hazard is that residents get lost or intrude into other people's rooms. Now that's a very usual event, but what I'm suggesting there is that that's actually a psychological hazard. We don't often talk about it in those terms. We talk about OH&S, don't we, in terms of hazards and risks and so on. But what I'd like you to think about is that some events that happen in people's lives actually create an emotional risk. Does that make sense? It's the risk that they will be hurt or upset or agitated by the actions of others. So that event of a resident walking into their room, for instance, that is a hazard. What's the likelihood of it? Is it the consequence is minor consequence? So the risk rating is 12H. So go up to the table and you find it likely but minor. So it's 12H. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Is that making sense for everybody? Rosa?
Explain it so I...
So it's likely but minor. 12H.
Rosa? Yeah? What are the social risks? Well, the social risks might be a bit more extreme from having residents wander into other people's rooms. So there's not much physical risk because people are not likely to get hurt, but they might be upset. So there's social and emotional risks. Likely, moderate, and therefore the rating is 17H. So you move across the page a little more. Yeah? Is everybody with me on that? The emotional risks, there's a likelihood of, it's likely, it's moderate consequences, and again, the risk rating is 17H. The action planned for the proposed improvement is to create signs and locate wayfinding cues at strategic locations. We talk about wayfinding. What do you need to find your way? It's something as a wayfinding cue. So, the risk that is left over, once we create that change and we put these cues around, that's going to improve things. So what we want to see is a change down, a decrease in the risk rating. So the physical risk goes from 12H to 8M. So what's 8M? It's moved down the table, hasn't it? Yeah, so it's minor and it's possible rather than likely. 9M for the social risk. Yeah, so it's moved from 17H down to 9M. So putting these wayfinding cues there is likely to, or it actually did, change the level of risk. So this is what I want you to observe, is what was the improvement? What was the risk beforehand? What was actually happening to people? And then what was actually happening after we made that improvement or change? Okay? Tell me if it's not making sense.
No.
Okay. What I'm trying to get across here is that some social interactions create emotional risks for people. Having somebody walk into your room is an emotional risk. It creates, and also a physical risk, that there might actually be some physical danger. They might hit out. Yeah.
So we have to do this for 2 residents, right?
For 2 residents, yeah.
Sorry, question. So the typos here, right? Where the numbers come from? I know it's extreme risk from 18 to 25,
Yeah.
but if they accept it from, for example, 6 to 9, right? But then you got 8 or 9, where do you get the number from?
From here, 18.
So
Yeah.
or
Just use that number.
Or just use these numbers.
Yeah.
We actually don't have to calculate.
That's right, you don't have to calculate it. Yeah. Yes, you don't have to calculate it. Is that okay? So that's one assessment.